What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to another trade recap video. So, as far as what happened on Thursday, we were up. Then let me explain. So we're up $1,400 on the account. Now, if you look back on the previous video, I'm only up like probably 400 bucks, something like that. Well, on Friday, I did end up taking a trade on gold, end up losing like $1,000, and should have made a video on it, but it was so stupid. Like what I did was I pretty much just I essentially woke up at like 9:45, saw that we had like these I'll show you right now. So on this day, on the 15th, on this day I was looking as price was rallying during the session. I was looking forward to taking price up to these highs, and that was going to be the trade. And ultimately, I just was not even like I was still in bed trading. I was on the phone and really, really distracted. So I ended up just grabbing like at max, I think like 5 to 6 contracts. My stop loss was I was low-key like in that kind of crash out mindset where I just wanted to get my balance to a point where I just wanted to get a payout soon, which is not a good mindset to have. Especially on a Friday because you're going into the weekend with like the like not the greatest type of mood. So I ended up just getting out at -1,000 on this whole move right here, and ultimately we never even took it out. So look at hindsight, it was really really stupid. And then speaking of the trades that we took to last night and today, ended up taking a total of 5 trades today, I believe. One winner last night, two break evens this morning, and then took one small loss and then another winner. So I'll pretty much break down these trades that I took. So starting off, let's go on TradingView here. So starting off on the 4 hour, you know, as we do always, on the context of everything, we're bullish. No need to go short for any type of reason. I honestly don't see any reason to go short. And it looks like price is likely targeting this level of 30K. So we'll see if we hit that within this month. On the 1 hour, so on the 1 hour coming into this Asia session, we were really, really bullish on Friday. And we ended up having this impulse, the correction here, and it gave us the impulse at 3 o'clock. And then at 4 o'clock, we had a correction. So coming into the session, I drew out the most recent impulse correction range. And what price did was we ended up gapping a bit lower, and ultimately we didn't really fill in the gap. So price ended up coming down lower, sweeping the low, which is a bullish indication for me that price likely is going to continue higher as we swept the low as well as uh, held not the 9 EMA as well. So on the 15-minute, was waiting to see how price was going to close, and once we got this really nice um, candle here on the 15, the next thing to do was to wait and see what the next 15-minute candle was looking like, or how it was gonna close. And so we either, because thing is sometimes we'll have this nice candle and the next candle will just continue either lower, or we may even just push up here without an entry. You know what I'm saying? So I was simply just gonna wait to see how this price action was gonna form out. Then on the 5 minute, ultimately got that um essentially the same entry thing as well, or the same thing that happened on the hourly, same thing happened on the 5 minute, where we got the impulse, the correction, expecting the impulse to take us higher. And here you can see we ended up filling in the gap, then pulling back, and then ultimately it ended up giving us another entry right around here to take out the highs that we left on Friday. And that was the one trade that I took last night. Ended up pretty much making back the loss I made on Friday, which sucks because it's just like, well, had I just not traded that day, had I just locked out my account because of how I was feeling, I would have not have to, made back that loss. You know what I'm saying? Like this would have been another 1,000 onto the account. another step closer to getting that payout. But nonetheless, you know, we live and we learn. So coming into the session this morning, we were pretty much in this whole entire range throughout the night. Other than us taking out this high, we were still just ranging throughout. And like I said earlier, not looking for shorts at all until a structure tells me otherwise, unless we are at some type of key level like 30K or something like that, where sellers are pretty aggressive. So what I did was I drew out the ranges of the overnight highs and lows, and what I realized that here we go. So what I realized coming into the 8 a.m. session, price had swept London lows, still leaving Asia lows. So I was okay with that. We did sweep the London lows on the 15-minute here. Price looked really, really nice going into the open to take out these equal highs up here. And so ultimately, I would say, I'll just get into that later. But on the 5-minute, well, so once this candle closed at 9:15, I was on the 5-minute, and I ended up getting in one contract here at this high. What's it called? With my stop loss at the low, and I believe that one contract was about like $100 worth of risk. And to be fair, because it was $100 worth of risk, I was honestly just looking to aim a little bit more, like probably around like 29,500, as where price is headed to probably likely today before we close. And with how price was reacting before we got the push into the open, or this open, pretty much this is the 9:30 candle right here. At 9:25, how price was reacting, I honestly thought it was probably gonna get stopped out, but we ended up closing really, really nicely. So once price had pushed up here, I added another contract at this high, risking about $200 now. And this is where I went wrong with my risk management, because I shouldn't have expected a trend day. I should have just managed my risk, my position accordingly, where I should have just taken out one contract at this high, despite not it not being much. Nonetheless, it's still just adding on to the base hits that I like to take, and that's where I didn't screw up at. I honestly should have either just taken out this high or just at 1 to 2, just one contract, and left the other one at break even. But unfortunately, I got stopped out for break even on both of these, and so there was nothing there in the morning session so far. And so looking at this on the 15-minute, once I got stopped out, structure still looks bullish to me. Like, despite us not really pushing as far as I wanted to see, structure tells me no reason to go short, or really no reason to not continue looking for longs. So we had this really nice displacement candle here on the 15-minute, and despite this 15-minute candle closing really, really bearish, I honestly didn't have any reason to continue not looking for longs. So back on the 5-minute, I was looking at this on the 5-minute plus the 1 minute here. So we had this really nice 5-minute range. Let me delete this just to make it easier. So we had this really nice 5-minute range here within the pretty much a 15 and 5-minute range here, and was on the 1 minute here looking for an opportunity to take this long. And what I did here was I really liked how price came down here, creating this lower high. And what I did was I preemptively entered a small amount of contracts at this high, and then I ended up waiting. Once this candle closed at this high, I ended up waiting for the correction candle on the 1 minute by stopping the high up here and getting in my full position. Now, same thing occurred here as the first position, where we had this high up here, and to be fair, I would have liked to have seen price continue higher and taking out this high, but this honestly wasn't a bad area to scale up maybe 1 or 2 contracts. So the same thing happened where I should have just scaled out 1 contract here, or maybe even 2, and then just move my stop to break even. But instead, I wanted the full take profit, or at least scale majority of my position out here and then leave one or two contracts for the potential to run for the remainder of the day. But ultimately got stopped out for break even on this move down and waited just a little bit to see where price was going to go, because there was this at this point I thought the likelihood of we were probably just going to just either range or just move lower now based off the volume that was coming in at the time. And on the 1 hour, despite the 1 hour close, it was still pretty good. Like, I honestly didn't mind it at all because of the 15 minute, you know what I'm saying? So with that second break even now, I pretty much saw that price had swept the low over here with that closing below, and that was pretty much a bullish indication for me that price is still likely targeting these highs, just really just stopping out a lot of people, or you know what I'm saying. So on the 5 minute, I saw how price pumped up here. You know, I've been nice close above the EMAs, which is a nice confluence to that. But we never got the correction candle that I like to see. And I'll be honest, there really wasn't a range for me. I should have honestly followed this on the 1 minute because it's still within this 5 minute range as well. And so I likely could have just waited for price to break above these EMAs and then correct and then buy stop this high with my stop at either this low right here or possibly these lows down here. But what I wanted to see, like I did with my previous trades, that I put like a previous trade that I posted back then, was we push up here, we create some form of a fair value gap here, and I wanted to see price come back down and retrace into it, and then find my entry pretty much like this, and then we just buy stop the high with my stop at the low. That did not occur, so price ended up just continuing, and before we could take out this high, we stalled, and this is where I found my third trade, which ended up being a loss. So once we had this correction on the 5 minute, price came down toward the EMAs, which was nice. We held those. And on the 1 minute here, we began to find some sort of buying. We corrected here. Here was the range where I did not want to see price break down. So long as price held the low of its impulse range on the 1 minute, it was valid for me for buys. From there, we took the breakout at the high here. I did scale in another two contracts, and the reason I'm scaling into my positions is because that's something I want to work on this month, is maximizing my wins, where I can have a target in mind like these highs up here, and then potentially just scale out either the whole position or I leave somewhat of a small runner behind. And so what I did was I scaled in on, I think, another two contracts at this high, and then ultimately we didn't really get the move that I wanted to see. So I would have moved my break even or my positions to break even once we broke this high. And I'm glad I didn't size in fully. I was only risking about $300, and I think that also told me that I didn't have too much conviction in this setup, and I honestly should have just passed it up, because had I just passed this up, the next setup was the best setup, which ultimately delivered for us. But that's something I'm definitely going to be journaling, is honestly just being okay with, even if this was the move that ended up taking us higher, I would have been okay just journaling that and being like okay with that being the move that takes the high out and missing that move, rather than taking a loss and then getting the move after. But nonetheless, it ended up stopping us out for a -1 here, and that was the third trade of the day. So then coming into the fourth trade, 15 minutes still looked great, still within this whole entire range. And you could say, well, within this impulse correction range, there was another impulse correction here. And with that came the 5 minute, looked really, really nice. Within this 5 minute range, price action was still holding really nicely. So look for opportunity on the 1 minute, found that here after this breakdown. We ended up pushing back up, really nice close. Price is holding nicely within the range. We're not really coming back down all the way. Buyers are showing some acceptance above the EMAs here. So I ended up scaling in 5 contracts here, and then the way price these 2 candles here, I ended up adding another 5 before I got in because I was really confident that this was the move that was gonna take us up higher, and ultimately it did. And where I broke even at was what I should have broke even like based off my plan at this once price took out that 1.2 or pretty much at this high. But I wanted to see I wanted to see conviction that price was going to move to that high. So I was okay with leaving my stop at like wherever it is right here, allowing the trade to allowing the trade to breathe more essentially. Then once we got this impulse here, that's when and it closed up here. That's when I moved my stop to break even, and that netted us 2.883 our trade, and that essentially made back the loss that we had, and then plus another like I think $500 or $400 on top of that. And that was really it. I mean, other than that, that was really all the trades that I took. But speaking of the first trade, had NQ had the momentum ES had today, I believe it would have played out beautifully, because essentially taking the same entry that I had around right here with my stop down below here, it ultimately played out really, really nicely. But I mean, I don't really trade ES, so it is what it is, honestly. But I'm glad I'm still green on the day. I was really calm and collected when I was taking these trades. Wasn't really thinking too much. Like, even though I got stopped out for break even on those 2 trades, I wasn't really thinking of like greed wise, like, oh, I'm like yes, I honestly should have scaled out, but I wasn't thinking in terms of greed. Like, I was like, all right, I want to really maximize my wins today. And that's honestly what I wanted to prove to myself, that I can just hold my trades um without, the fear of like losing the unrealized um gains or whatever. And I was okay with that, and it allowed me to still continue to execute properly throughout the day, and ultimately ending the day green. So I mean, that's really it, guys. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see you.